Wow. So here's how I'm going to do this again, folks. Thought I hit mute. Did hit mute. Let's do this again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sketchcraft Live. I'm Rob Duenas, graphic artist Esquire. And if you're just joining in for the very first time, you should know that I typically rant about art, movie, and geek-related news stuff chosen by either myself or you, the audience. Joining me today is Wesley Rusher, freelance game assassin, and James Bacon, resident grumpy gamer. Guys, how you doing?
Pretty good.
James,
Wonderfully.
perfect. So I'll just trim out the first few 30 seconds of me ranting with the fucking mute button on. I gotta really get used to hitting that thing on and off. All
It
right.
was really quiet for a while. I was wondering what was
Yeah.
going on.
Well, I could hear me, so then I just looked down. I'm like, oh, it's still on. Amazing. All right. So basically, we're gonna talk about Psychonauts and Double Fine. Let me just break it all down. If you don't know who Double Fine is, go to Google, type in most awesomest game company ever made, and it will automatically redirect you to Double Fine Production. Double Fine Productions is a company that Tim Schafer founded around the year 2000, around the year 2000, and
Year 2000.
yeah, and he's made such games as Psychonauts, Brutal Legend, Broken Age, Massive Chalice. Well, he didn't make that, but they produced Massive Chalice, Costume Quest. They just did Grim Fandango Remastered. If you just go check out the wiki, the Metacritic, you'll see all their stuff. So basically, what happened is this past week, Senor Schaefer launched a new crowdfunded campaign off their own site called Fig for Psychonauts 2. It kind of shocked the whole internet that they were going to do Psychonauts 2. And they were looking to raise about $3.3 million, which was roughly what they generated the last time they did a big, or the last time Tim did a big crowdfunding campaign for Double Fine Adventure right here, which became Broken Age. And then they're almost there. As of right now, with 30 something days left to go, they're at 2.4 million, about 74% funded. So at the rate they've been going, they'll probably hit it sometime next week or before Star Wars hits. The reason why I'm doing a whole show on this was I had an interesting situation where people such as James, no, James and a bunch of people on the internet have an opinion that I don't fully understand. So I thought I'd ask James to come bring it on. Now, I will say this. There are people who dislike a game, and then there are other people that make a Phil Fish. Phil Fish. I will say this. I'll preface this. This is not James, but I did go to Twitter and I happened to make a post about how I'm going to give my money, my Battlefront money, to Double Fine because I feel paying $60 to $120, $110 for multiplayer only games, it's overpriced. Especially when everyone keeps saying, it'll be cheaper a year from now, Rob. Well, then I'll wait a fucking year, and in the meantime, I'll support Double Fine because I have a limited gaming budget. Uh, Twitter erupted in a spew of a shit NATO. I don't know how else to describe what just whirled about my fucking brain all day. It actually was the first time in my life I got sucked into the Twitter vortex. And I try to have conversations that just spiraled into being called the N word. And Wesley, you saw a bit of that, right?
Yeah,
Jesus, are you kidding me?
No, I
Yeah.
screen capped all these because I was like, I gotta save this because this is fucking crazy.
Over a
all
video
kinds
game?
of.
I mean, look, man, I get pretty passionate about this stuff, but like, I don't know. People are so fucked
Well, I'm not
sometimes.
saying you're in that crowd. Although I started to wonder, is James in that crowd? Do I not know? Why not know this man?
No, here's my deal. Here's my deal. I dislike, that's probably an understatement. I absolutely fucking hate video games on Kickstarter. I am fine with crowdfunding, okay? I am fine with, you want to crowdfund a book or a tabletop game or an action figure or something. Art, awesome. Do it. I'll probably support you. I love it. I hate video games being crowdfunded because they're nothing but miserable messes unless it's something like a Shovel Knight, which is completely and totally doable. In fact, I didn't even back Shovel Knight. The only video game that I have backed that is out right now is Armacrog. That's it. That's the only one. And I've backed like 4 or 5 of them. Way Forward still hasn't put Shantae out. Some of them have failed spectacularly. Like Star Citizen is now in this like weird downward spiral. Like people are just talking. I don't even know what's actually going on with that game. But to keep on topic, Tim Schafer did Broken Age. Okay, he asked for your money. You gave him $3.3 million. I gave him some money, and then he released it, but half done on Steam to sell it to people who didn't back because the funds were mismanaged because he needed more money. So the people on Steam got to play the game before the backers even got to play it, blah, blah, blah. Finally got finished. Everyone got to play it. That was just a complete fuck up. Then there was the whole the space station game that they had out that was also
Oh, hold on. Before we get into Deep Space Nights, we're going to get into Space Base, right? Because we'll get into that for a second. Because Space Base was not a Tim Schafer game, right? Let's just stop. That's a Double Fine.
Okay.
Right? That's a separate situation altogether.
That's fine.
We'll address it, folks, because that came up too. And the thing I see, James, and the reason why I bring this up is having grown my adult years post-Army, in the Fox News age of the war, and the crazy way politics has changed, I've sort of seen how talking points become a thing. You know what I mean? In the age of 20, we had 24-hour news. Talking points becomes this thing that goes around, and everyone just starts spewing them. If you like Republicans, or you like Democrats, you have these points, and people just latch on to them. And I've seen the gaming.
They're headlines. They're headlines. There's no substantive anything behind them. People, they take a look at the headline, they go, "Oh, I like the way that sounds," and then all of a sudden it becomes a fact, and it's actually based on complete nonsense. So I get where you're coming from. If you want to stick with Tim, we can stick with Tim. I won't.
Well, we'll move to this in a second. I'm going to bring it up, but let's just go through. We have time, right? So just hold on one second.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is one thing I've noticed. I've been a gamer since 1982. It's when the farthest back I can remember playing a game. I think it was Tempest, right? So it was either Tempest or it was fucking Space Invaders on the Atari 2600. Foggy on that. What I'm trying to say is, throughout the years, I have seen the gamer community, especially in the last several years, become politicized to the point, especially with. Hold on. So, and especially if we've all three worked for Dave Halverson, so we've all sort of received the brunt end of that from the internet, one point or another. And I see these talking points when it comes to Tim's games, right? And so what I wanted to do, at least for myself, is have a place where I could at least point people, look, if you want to, well, I'm going to bring up each thing and then I'm going to address them because I care. And the reason why I care is one of the reasons why I ever wanted to be a creator of anything, was because of Tim Schafer and Ron Gilbert. I did not know who Ron Gilbert or Tim Schafer was when I first played Maniac Mansion on the NES. Couldn't have a PC. When I played Day of the Tentacle on my buddy's PC, I didn't know who Tim Schafer was until the credits rolled up. That's why. So who wrote these things? Who directed? And then Full Throttle, holy shit! And then Grim Fandango, the Monkey Island games as well in between there. And then finally with Psychonauts, so a lot of who I am creatively sort of came from, inspired by this guy's works, humor in video games, and so you start to feel like I had someone on the Twitter go, Rob, you're what's wrong with gaming, and I was like, well, first off, what's wrong with gaming? And if I'm what's wrong, what's the solution? What's the gamer question? What is the gamer question? What do we do about these people who back games because they want to? I don't fully understand. So let's talk first about just Double Fine in general. So what we're talking about is, you brought up a few points. One, Double Fine Adventure, which became Broken Age. And then the only other Kickstarter they ever did was Massive Chalice. Now, yes. I want to preface it by saying, can we all agree, Wesley, I know you've been a little silent on this, can we all agree that although Metacritic is not proof of a good game, it is indicative of, it certainly could point you towards a bad game, and it can give you a consensus of the industry belief, right? The base sort of belief. Can we agree that the Metacritic at least can do that?
I will agree that, and I will state broadly that Metacritic is not a worthless tool. There is some worth to Metacritic.
And I'm going to prove...
I agree too. I mean, it gives you a fair average to the most part. I mean, there's some sites with scores you don't want to pay too close attention because they get skewed. They don't, their scale is not necessarily the same scale every site uses, but it's definitely fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, if I mean, people can still quote the tomato meter, you know what I mean, as indicative of a good movie, then I think, Metacritic can at least be used to say, look, at least here's the accepted industry belief on a game, right? Enough, okay, within 10-point variation, right? So using that, if you go to Double Fine's Metacritic rating, their highest rated game is Broken Age, and their lowest rated game is Space Base. So I think, based off your feelings, that's kind of interesting. If you look at all the games they've done in between, they average about 70 to 80 on the Metacritic score. I'd say an average of 73 to 76. Even Psychonauts, you know and so I started to really think about. I had this belief when I was a game fan, and I used to talk to Dave all the time. I said, Dave, you know what's interesting to me, um, is that there's these games that get tens every year. Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Grand Theft Auto, whatever. But the games that seem to stick with me long term, more often than not, seem to receive, if I remember right, a C or a 70% score when I was growing up. Like Final Fantasy Tactics was not reviewed well when it came out. Star Fox was not reviewed well when it came out. There were things about it that were reviewed well. Like Pilot Wings was not reviewed well. Overall, it was a 70 game, a 70% game, a C average game. But I found that those games, whatever they did right so well that over time they stood the test of time. Like
Yeah,
you look back at the,
absolutely
you look
there's
back.
absolutely a case for middleware in the industry. Middleware it's extremely important. That's where all of tomorrow's AAA games come from. I'm in 100% agreement with you on this.
So so when someone says, "Well, I played Broken Age, I didn't like this part of it, or I didn't like this or that," to me, I keep thinking like, I bet you in 15 years they're gonna be like, "That game was awesome." Guarantee you, and I can explain to you why. Because a game like anything Tim Schafer does has his personal stamp on it. And in an industry where it's largely designed by community and marketing people, anybody who can put a unique perspective on something has the chance of a game. The game does something that nothing else can do. That's why a Hideo Kojima game is markedly different from someone else who will make a Metal Gear game. I mean, it just feels different. You can feel the guy's influence in a way that you don't know who the hell directed Mass Effect. Look, it's pretty, it's a cool game, but you don't know whose personality is coming through that game. And then I wonder, how well will these games hold up in 10 years? So when I grew up, I remember the first time there was controversy around a Tim Schafer game was Full Throttle. When Full Throttle came out, it's too short, too expensive, too short, and it's got these really lame fighting levels where you just punch a guy on a motorcycle and fucking repeat. However, when I played the game, yes, it was short. Yes, those levels sucked, and I heard rumors that it was cut in half. Turns out, in truth and reality, it was cut in half for budget. But it was so cinematic, and it was so different from anything else that was out. We just kept, me and my friend Rich, we just kept playing it over and over. We'd record it and listen to it on audio tape like it were an animated movie. I've heard the same thing like when Grim Fandango, no, that Grim Fandango came out, no one complained about it, but then it made no money. So it was like, oh wow, this guy can make the greatest game ever, but they don't sell. And then when Psychonauts came out, the reviews were along the same lines of fantastic story, platforming sucks. Like this is like a key component. So Broken Age comes out, and they're like, well, the first half is really great. The second half, the puzzles are too hard, and it shouldn't have been broken in half. And I find this interesting. Like, okay, so as a creator, we're gonna have limitations. And I think that Tim Schafer is not very good at developing the gameplay mechanic, but he's very good at creating an idyllic universe filled with interesting characters. And I think that that's what he's always continually gone to bat to sell to people. And when he pitched Double Fine Adventure, he even joked in the thing, this could go to hell and completely crash and suck, but we're going to record it, so you'll find out. Did they have trouble? Now, let's bring up the first thing you said, that the game was cut in half, and they had to go back to market to fund the other half, and it was mismanaged. Well, I don't know if it was mismanaged so much as, Tim got more money, wanted to do the idea that interested him the most. Did he run
Well,
out
let
of
me
funds?
let me
Hold on. I'm
let
just going
me
to finish this
interrupt real
point.
quick.
I'm going to finish this one point, and then you get to go on, right?
Okay. Okay.
He, they got to a point they had to refund the game, right? They had to find more funds for the game. So they hit a point, they release it, use the funds from that, and sell it. In gaming development, if you were an actual if you were working for a publisher like EA, you would then take your project and go to EA and get more money from them. This happens all the time. There are plenty of movies that have been like, oh, we got to go back to we show it to Warner's and see if they can cut us some more money to get more movie made, you know. But for some reason, because Double Fine, because Broken Age was crowdfunded, everyone was like, well, you're mismanaging the funds. Like we all had a say on how they mismanaged the funds. You know, everyone who backed the game got the game. They didn't have to pay extra. They got the second part. They didn't have to pay extra. I am still waiting on my physical copy, but to be fair, every time I bought something from Double Fine, it takes about a year past the fucking. I got the Art of Brutal Legend that took a year to get to me. It's just how I mean I've used to that with them. But it does arrive. They've never not shipped something, including Amnesia Fortnite 2014, which just got here like a month ago. So like they're just a small outfit, you know, trying to do a lot. So that being said, on the object on the point of it being mismanaged, what is your rebuttal, Jamie?
I didn't say that the funds were mismanaged. I said that it was mismanaged.
How?
And defining it would be how he really didn't attempt to mitigate among the community and the backers all of the outrage that he had to have known was coming. But even before we drilled
I
too
don't know what
far
you.
down
Wait, hold
into
on,
this
hold on,
topic,
hold on. When you say that, what do you mean by that? He
well,
didn't
I
mitigate that
mean,
he knew. I don't understand what that. See, when you're speaking for someone, I'm trying to figure out how do you know that he knew everyone would interpret something a certain way? You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out like what do you
well,
mean by
because
that?
I assume that he's not an idiot because I mean, there's no way a man with that powerful wit is an idiot. When he go, I'm just going to switch subjects. Before we even get to a point where I am drilling down into the breakdown of how or why or whatever concerning the mismanagement, I don't use those terms to hate on Tim Schafer. I don't hate Tim Schafer. I'm not angry with Tim Schafer. I am what I'm describing when I went on a tear about the first game, the Broken Age. What I was doing was laying groundwork by which to gauge my participation in any future crowdfunding projects. All right. I don't think that because especially with Broken Age, here's what happened with Broken Age. Went to Kickstarter, got $3.3 million, developed it for I don't even know how long. It doesn't matter. Games take 5 years to develop sometimes. So he developed it, turned it out, put it on Steam. People bought it. He got his funding. He finished the game, and then literally the reason that I've been able to play Broken Age is because I got it for free on PSN last month. So, and you know what? You're right when you say that, sometimes people have to go back to get more funding to a publisher. Yes, that is true.
But you said you
But
backed the game.
no, I didn't. Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. You say back to Armor Krog.
Yeah, I never backed. I don't think I ever backed Broken Age. If I said that, I misspoke. I got lost in what I was saying, so I apologize. I didn't mean to
you don't
mislead.
have to apologize.
I did not back Broken
I
Age.
thought you said
Just
you
to
backed
me.
it. All right.
Um,
Just to
Apologize,
but
James.
Wesley. Come on, get back on the chopping block, Bacon.
so the critical difference here is that a publisher is a publisher, and they have control. They have at least,
But your
in part.
argument, James, your argument, right, is that they got the money. They made the game. They released it. Fuck them. I don't understand that argument. You know what I mean? They released the game. It was reviewed favorably across the board. I still hate them.
No, no, no,
I
no.
don't
It's not.
understand the
No,
argument.
no,
I don't believe in crowdfunding because they got the money, they made the game and released the game, and it was
no,
reviewed well. I'm never gonna
no.
back a. It took longer than
I
you
will.
thought. I don't
No, no.
understand. You know what I mean? Like, is Minecraft still done? I mean, I paid
Let
for
me
Minecraft.
be
I'm trying to figure out. I paid for Minecraft in
direct
2010.
and
Like,
let me be clear. Okay, let me be clear. Tim Schafer is a very high-profile individual when it comes to crowdfunding. All right. Whether or not this is fair, I have decided to not fund Kickstarter video games or crowdfund. I guess I should get over the Kickstarter thing. I will not participate in crowdfunded video games.
Right, but your point on Facebook, right? The thing that I was struck by wasn't that you said I don't want to pay for crowdfunded games, which I would never argue with someone. Look, if you don't want to do it, I'm not an evangelical, man. I'm not here to convince people.
Right.
What I took umbrage with, and seemed to be something I was noticing across the board from a lot of people, James, right, was you're a fucking sucker if you give these guys your money. It's vaporware. I'm like, how is it vaporware if I got the game right here? How is that's the thing? It's vaporware. How is it vaporware if it's right here? Well, he had to go back and get more money.
I'll tell you.
How is it vaporware?
Broken Age is not vaporware. All right. Psychonauts 2 is vaporware. You're giving him money and not getting anything in return immediately. You're also
okay. Hold on. With that being said, it's no different than Battlefront. No different with any season pass where you pay $50. You haven't received anything.
Yeah,
you don't even know what you're going to get, actually, in that case.
Season passes are asinine. I have never in my life, nor will I ever, buy a season pass.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is, but if 13 million people seem to be okay with that, you know what I mean? We're talking about 15,000 people are back in the game. We're talking about a game that can't come out regardless. Like, if you're like, well, he could just get money from publishers, and if publishers don't want to fund it, it shouldn't be made. Look, publishers... There was one publisher who wanted to make the first Psychonauts game. That was Xbox under Ed Freeze. Under Ed Freeze. That. But what I'm trying to say is okay, check this out. Without Double Fine Adventure, you don't get Wasteland 2, which is critically acclaimed, fucking awesome. I got it sitting right there, dude. You know what I mean? You don't get the Pillars of Eternity. You know, you don't get Divinity, the RPG of the year. Now, what publisher was going to go out and take the risk? This is not a risky industry anymore. They're risk averted. You know what I mean? They're aversion to risk. This industry, like they just want to make the same. They're going to give you Haze and Evolve and fucking Titanfall and Destiny before they give you Divinity, isometric. I mean, look at Diablo 3. You know how long that took, and even once it came out, how long it took them to fix it. You know, like. This is an industry that tends to just do what the last person did. So where else are these risks now? Now, that being said, I understand that there are a lot of games I've backed that haven't come out because making games is hard. So to what I would say is with Double Fine Adventure, they documented the struggle. Did you watch the whole documentary, by the way? I'm just curious.
No.
Because what I've found is most people who argue this never watch the documentary, which is free on their YouTube channel. Because if you watch the documentary, you get to really see how hard it is to make a game. And you can see him struggle with, I didn't think the people would take it this way. So he's not stupid. He thought it would be read a certain way, and it was read another, and he realized they made a horrible mistake in how they promoted this. And there was he's like, I don't think there's any way to fix this other than to explain it and move forward. And this game really needs to actually be good now. Shit. I mean, if we fail... And one of the things they say is we fail, all of Kickstarter games fail. Like we're the poster child, So I think one of the points that was make is Tim Schafer doesn't feel. You said Tim Schafer, and I hate to say you because it's not you. It's just it's a talking point. Tim Schafer feels crowdfunding games because they receive their money up front have no incentive to make a good game. And my point is, when that many eyes are looking in on the process, like in Tim Schafer's case, where they're documenting everything, they had every incentive to make a good game because they knew they had to be able to make this a reoccurring thing that they could go back and do. Because they're an independent studio that's known for making quirky games. They're not known for making Avengers fucking iOS app. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be the third party who converts Arkham Knight to fucking Android. They're not that studio. So what other platform is going to help bring in, because this is a weird world we live in, James, where you gotta have a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit to make ends meet. Because we all know from gaming magazines, you can't get all your money from advertisers anymore, right? It has to come from a lot of different places. So they're feeling that crunch, And I don't agree with every decision they make. What I do say is they released a good game that's unique. They fulfilled the promise. And they're going back to make another game. You know what I mean? And I just don't understand where why that's not worth a risk. You know what I mean?
Here's why. And again, this goes back to this is extremely unfair, okay? But with the track record that not Tim Schafer, but video games as a whole have had with Kickstarters, with even when a finished product is turned out, oftentimes there were all kinds of upsets regarding backer perks or timeliness. And so whether or not this is fair to Tim Schafer, whose games I love, I think he has one of the most just miraculous types of storytelling that I've ever been able to witness. His games are incredible. Costume Quests are great, Trenched is great, just all of them. I love them all. Unfortunately, I do not care to back video games in a crowdfunding environment because of the vast majority of what I have witnessed has happened. And it's entirely based on my limited view, what I have invested in, what has become of the games that I have invested in, what I've heard of the overall, like the bigger crowded fund, like Star Citizen, the stories that I hear coming out of that. I didn't contribute to Star Citizen. I was not interested in Star Citizen. I have no fucking idea what's really going on over there. All I know is that what I've been reading and what I've been hearing has been all 100% negative.
But if I say
So,
I hate magazines in the way they are, I'm never going to spend money on a magazine ever again. And a really good one comes out like Nintendo Force or, Retro or whatever. But I'm not. I'm stuck. I'm not going to do it ever again because these guys over here. Yeah, these guys did all right, but these guys over here didn't. So fuck them. You know what I mean? Like I don't under. How is that any different than? I'm not going to go to the movie theaters because I don't like 3D. Well, you can see
no,
a
no, no. Here's
movie
how I
that
change
isn't
your
in
example.
3D. Like
Here's how I change your example. I would say that okay, I'm never going to do magazines again. I've just been burned so many times. These guys over here they're planning on putting out a good magazine, and I think that it could be actually really pretty good.
but
Do
if
I
it
want to
can't
give them my
exist
money
without your
before
help.
they give me the magazine? If they can get that magazine to the shelf, I will buy it. But I'm
But
not going
but but but
to.
look what gets to the shelf. A lot of shit. So what
No,
I'm trying to
and
say,
I
if the
don't buy
industry
it.
is
Yeah.
based around a formula, James, that only allows shit to come through. Look, when I made Game Fan, right? You know how much shit I got from graphic designers over what I did in that magazine? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Every
but dude,
one of them, dude. This should not
I can't.
exist. This is horrible. It's crowded. This is, So I know if I pitch Game Fan to Ziff Davis or Future Publishing, they would go, fuck no way, dude. Too busy.
Yeah,
Doesn't
dude,
happen.
look, I can't control every single last like the millions of idiots out there who are going to go and buy a Battlefront and then also buy a season pass. I can't control that. All right, those are the people that are bringing those games to the market. All I can do is worry about my wallet.
Right. Okay. So if
That's
the
the only
Divinity
thing I
guys make a
cover.
great game, they
Huh?
crowdsource a great game. They can come out. It's great. They need to go crowdfund the sequel. I'm not supporting them. They made a great game, but I'm gonna wait until everyone else does, and then you understand what I'm saying? Like, but they've
Yeah.
already
Oh
proven. Now the
no.
Armacrog guys proved that they're not really game designers. You know what I mean? I played the game. It's not a game. So okay, I don't go back to them. Shovel Knight, Way Forward still, they come through, man. The game where I mean, Way Forward didn't make that. The guys who left Way Forward did.
Yacht
The
Club.
Yeah, Yacht
Yeah.
Club made that. So Yacht Club wants to make another game. I'm backing them. I backed the first one. They came through great. I'm not gonna go to the well twice for a game but Tim Schafer came through, dude. Broken Age scored. It's their highest rated game. That's what's crazy. Like if the game sucked, it couldn't possibly be their highest rated game. You know? In this industry that a point and click adventure, dude, like that's no one was asking for that, you know?
See, I really quick, the way like I'm hearing it from you, James, is it sounds like when you look at supporting a game through crowdfunding, that you are buying the game as opposed to giving them money to help them make the game. In turn, if they do succeed, you get, a digital physical product of some nature.
I know that in crowdfunding, I am giving them money for essentially nothing. I'm not giving them money for a stake in game direction. I am not giving them money for a stake in game production. I am giving them money for nothing. And should they be able to, with the funds acquired, turn out a product in any sort of timely fashion, be it early or late, that then I will have given them money. And that's why I call it vaporware, Rob.
But that's
Broken
not
Age,
it, dude. Vaporware is Star Citizen. It's a game that doesn't exist. The game
it's
exists. It's
Broken Age
ridiculous.
exists. Broken Age
Yeah.
exists. Yes.
So
Broken
you
Age is
also
not
said
vaporware.
why
Psychonauts 2 is
specifically
vaporware.
why specifically video games? Because you mentioned you would support other things, and I'm assuming you would probably support a board game, right?
Yeah, and I have. Um,
How's a board game any
because
different, especially if it's
because of
early in concept?
because of my because of my observed success rate with specifically crowdfunded video games. This is entirely anecdotal, but that's all I can base my wallet, that's all I can base my purchases on. So of the games that I have backed, again, I have backed 5 games. The only one that's come out is Armacrog. And like you said, it's not really even all that great. I mean, it's cool. I like the design. I like the physicality, the claymation. It's all really great. The animation is nice. Not really a game. And because of that, because of my history of having backed 4 games that are now either late or have been completely just dropped off the face of the planet, I hesitate. And then to compound that problem, there are stories coming out from hugely crowdfunded games that are failing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting on one of them 25 deep, but it happens. The first 3 games I backed all came out: Wasteland 2, Banner Saga, Shovel Knight, and they're all great games. The third game I backed just got delayed to 2018, and that was Project Phoenix, which
Yeah.
raised like $1 million.
Project
But I mean,
Phoenix.
at least they're transparent. At least they're not giving up as of yet. They could just take the money and run. But
I'm not
they
gonna look.
they do that, they'll never be able to do anything else on Kickstarter again.
I'm not gonna tell anyone to crowdfund a game. You don't want to crowdfund a game. I honestly, I'm not. I've gone to look. Some people know I've gone to Kickstarter like 8 times. Only one of them I'm still working on, which is fucking Game Cave. Which I was like, when you're like, I hate crowdfunding. I'm like, it's funny, James, because you've benefited directly from Broken Age. I never would have
Yeah,
made Game Cave without Broken Age. So I was like, I don't.
I'll tell you what. When I said that, I typically post litanies, and you know that. You've seen my wall before. Sometimes I post something so frequently that I just don't feel like I have to say it anymore. So there are at least 10 posts that I've made regarding specifically not crowdfunding video games. So when I move forward and start talking about crowdfunding sucks and I'll never crowdfund again, I in my headspace assume that the vast majority of the people who regularly read my bullshit know that I'm talking about video games because I've said it exhaustively. I get that you don't read my wall all the time. I get that that's the one post that you read, and so it made it look like I just hate crowdfunding in general. That's not
I
really
read
what I'm.
his wall. He actually shared a video game Kickstarter project about a month ago.
Yeah, but that was a friend's, and I didn't.
I know. I was surprised.
Look, we're not ganging up on you, James. I don't want James. I just entered a viper pit. You know what I mean? I'm in a den of knives. They're racking away, and I'm just trying to cut my way through the crowdfunding. Fucking Double Fine. Like it's not that at all. It's that look. It's here. Let me. This is not you. Okay. This is what I experienced on Twitter. Which I know you're going to be like, that's ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. But here's what I experienced on Twitter, which is crazy. It's vaporware. So then I explained, how is it vaporware if I have the game? Well, the game sucked. Well, that's your opinion, but if you look at the Metacritic score, overall people liked it. Metacritics aren't indicative of good games. Did you see Space Base? I'm like, yeah, and it has a really bad Metacritic score. So I don't know where you're going with that argument. Like it wasn't a good game, and they left the code open source. So they're like, you guys can even fucking fix it. You know what I mean? Like they financially couldn't continue forward. And if a guy makes 20 games and one of them fails, he makes Wii Music, do we say fuck Shigeru Miyamoto? You know what I mean? I'm never buying a game Shigeru Miyamoto directs again because fucking Wii Music was a ripoff. You know, I mean, I spent $60 on that game or $50 on that Wii
No,
game.
but
I mean, it
I
cost
might.
full price, right? You don't get your
No, but
money
I
back
might
from
wait for his
Nintendo.
next project to actually be a game and come out and see what other people's opinions are before I decide to put my money on it.
But what does that mean? You know how many people said, you know what, Assassin's Creed got it some negative technical reviews. I'm gonna go buy it anyway. You know, you don't
I
get
mean,
your money back. You know what I mean?
what's
From
funny
the
with Assassin's Creed is the last one didn't sell very well the first week until the reviews came out. People were like, "Oh, it's not a mess this time," and then the sales picked up a week later. Like people waited this time with their wallets. They kind of learned a lesson last time, but not to get off topic. But
look, at the end of the day, the Kickstarter's doing fine. Tim Schafer, they don't need my help. You know, I just don't understand. So let me tell you what. So the vaporware, the na. Then it was Tim Schafer discriminates. Now I'm like, oh fuck, I got sucked into the Gamergate fucking title pool of oh shit, and I start to freak out because to
I
this
totally
day,
thought we were gonna avoid that fucking topic.
where we
I'm
are,
so
it's I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
explain to people just uttering the word, I feel the tremor in the force. Because honest folks, so you know, I don't know. No one can explain to me what being for something or against something this topic means anymore. You know what I mean? Like I can never get a clear answer on this because the people in general are like he discriminates. I'm like, if his lead character is a black female, you know what I mean? And his other games feature girls and orange dudes and green dudes. How is he discriminatory? You know, then it's like, oh well. Then it went in this weird thing of like, you know, you're a N word. You know what I mean? I was like, well, that's discriminatory.
Oh
You
my
know,
god!
and
Look,
then you're a
look.
gay lover, and gays don't. You know, they were like, gays shouldn't even exist. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand how. I was like, are we in South Park? Are we talking to PC Principal here? Like, am I, you
No, all that stuff is such bullshit. Like, look, I like H.P. Lovecraft. Okay, H.P. Lovecraft was a horrible racist. Horrible, horrible
but
racist. All
Tim
right.
isn't. I don't even want to use that word because now I think we're
Even,
like
you
discriminating.
know,
Well, you know, Tim's
even
racist,
if
but stuff
Tim,
like he's
even if
not.
he were a racist, I'm not saying he is. In fact, everything I've seen some of the shit that he said about not being a racist and being inclusive and all that. And while I think some of it's a little, social justice sympathizery, I don't think that he's a racist. I don't, I, but even if he was, you have to be able to separate the work from the artist. So he could be a horrible racist. He could hate whoever he wants to hate. But if his games are good, I don't fucking care. I'm gonna buy them.
I don't
I
know,
don't
James.
care.
Those are your words, are not mine. He's not, though. Right? Like I'm just trying to
The,
No, no,
say,
the James
I,
is
he's
secretly
not.
saying
Let's not even. If he were,
James loves
James, don't
Orson
go there.
Scott Card.
I actually don't. I think Orson's got. Well, I'll tell you what. I played Shadow Complex. That was a
But
good
we
game.
all know the first third of that book is good, and then it
Hey,
just ventures off. So
Shadow
any,
Complex free on PC this month. Well, for the people listening,
thank
go
you.
buy it. It's amazing.
Thanks. Look, folks, here's what I'm just trying to say, and I want to get this in there. The other thing you said, James, kind of like this is where I was like, I don't know if I'm talking to a human anymore, right? And this really sort of bothered me, and I'm just gonna be honest, right? When the and I've heard this phrase before, Bobby Kotick was right. Okay,
I
I
didn't say
now
that.
I want in all honesty, okay, I happen to draw covers for Activision. All right, so I'm potentially fucking myself over when I say this. Okay, as a fan, I cannot exist creatively in a world where Activision is seen as the fucking thing that's working and the independent game studio with the guy who makes creative weird games is ruining the industry. I don't even see how it's possible. Like
I
so
didn't
they
say that.
this comes
What
back.
happened?
This comes back. This comes back to Double Fine when people want to know why did what happened to Brutal Legend, and then Tim's like, well, he's butthurt because Activision dropped the game and he almost had to fire half his company, and EA came out and bailed him out. Okay, Activision didn't fund the game. They passed on it. He went for more money. Kotick said no. EA picked up the game. Not the first, not the last person in the industry for that to occur to. So then Kotick, Bobby Kotick, whatever, Mr. Kotick, rebuts to Tim's thing and says, well, it wasn't even a good game. And I'm like, fucking dick, dude, because like this is a guy who his company's ruined. Tony Hawk worked just fine when Neversoft wasn't owned by, you know what I mean, ran by fucking assholes, dude. They ruined one of the best gaming series in this industry called Tony Hawk. Ruined it. To the point where, like, I'm like, you can't possibly use Bobby Kotick was right, as a fucking legitimate argument when that
I
company
didn't.
has done so much crazy wrong in
I
this
said
industry,
that.
dude.
I never said that. I
You said
posted.
Kotick was right. Like,
No, I didn't. I posted something on Facebook that said this is $1 million worth of stupid, and then Neil said the worst thing that Double Fine's done in the past 5 years is prove Bobby Kotick right. I never said that. That was all him. I didn't even agree with him.
I thought you typed in Kotick was right, man. I
Nope.
don't want to go on the Facebook and start digging shit up.
I'll do it.
Nope.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yo, Wesley, you look it up. You find out who said what. And if I'm wrong, then
He
whatever.
liked it. He liked it. No, I don't know. I'm not looking.
So what? The head of a studio that owns 1/3 this industry didn't like a game and cut it. So that means that guy that he didn't like, F him. You know what I mean? Like, and that guy who almost lost his whole studio, he's mad at that. I mean, what do we care? What do we care? If we don't care whether they're racist, James, we certainly shouldn't care what personal feelings they have towards a publisher and a developer. We shouldn't even get involved in that, right?
Totally agree.
Doesn't even matter. It's just the strangest effing thing, dude. Like, and Brutal Legend shouldn't even exist. Well, Brutal Legend scored the same as Psychonauts. Think about that.
I actually prefer Brutal Legend to Psychonauts.
And you know what
now,
the complaints? The positives of Brutal Legend are great story, great music, great characters. I don't like the gameplay. You know what the fucking complaints about Psychonauts were I don't like the gameplay, great story, great characters. I mean, same thing, for just different mechanics. Oh, platformers, RTS. I don't know. It's just strange. I think, I used to say this to Dave. I think this industry wants the perfect thing every time, and that perfect thing won't last. I mean, it took 30 years for the movie industry to come to appreciate Citizen Kane. 30 years. That movie was not appreciated until the mid 60s. You know? So this industry hasn't really even existed. Like, it barely existed 30 years. You know? I mean, like, this year would be like if we marked the Nintendo as the NES as the real console, when it kind of what we know as console gaming today started with Nintendo, really, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just now 30 years. Like, we got to really think about how young this industry is. And I think those games that do one thing really well and not so much on others stand the best chance at creating, the experiences that will carry over, generations, as opposed to just churning out endless Madden games, every fucking year, like, that don't do nothing.
I agree. I'm just not buying them until they're on the shelf.
I feel sad, dude. That's the way. Because what's sad too is when they're on the shelf, they have to run at a discount. So you end up giving a company $9 instead of 30. And I guess because of where I'm at in life too, having always worked with the underdog, I know that $30, at a small studio goes a lot further than at an Activision. You know? Like, that could be the difference between having two programmers in one at a Double Fine versus, and when I say at a Double Fine, I don't mean at Double Fine, I mean at a, like, case in point, Battle Chasers. I just backed Battle Chasers, right? Like, the Kickstarter. That game would never name one publisher who's making that. An ATB battle fucking game based off a comic that's 20 years old. RPG dungeon crawler, dude. Who's making it?
You look at these other companies like, what was the game that the Skullgirls guys just funded?
Invincible. I can never remember the name.
Yeah.
Indefensible.
Invincible. I mean, whatever the name is, they had a publisher lined up, I think 505 Games, who would not sign the contract unless they could generate, $1.5 million, and they would then give them another $2 million to help fund it. But they're like, listen, if you can't, raise enough money to make this game happen, we're not helping you either.
Well, that was the other argument that was brought up by the internet, was that, well, Tim, Tim's a liar because they've extended Psychonauts by, like, it was like a week. Like, when they first launched, after a couple of a day, they bumped it up like a week, in terms of the time. And I'm like, so they needed an extra 7 days. You know what I mean? Fucking, they did that Irredeemable game had to do that at the very, you know what I mean? Sometimes they have to increase the funding time. So, I mean, I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like when an entire group. This reminds me. The only thing I can really liken it to, James, is remember the weapons of mass destruction. Like when you're just clawing to find they're there somewhere, and they were, but on a technicality, and it's a politicizing. It's politicizing a hobby. in terms of the discussion. And people start becoming evangelicals in a way, dude. Like
Yep.
they believe hard, to quote Joss Whedon. Like, careful about beliefs. So I don't know, man, dude. It's a very
Well,
lively discussion.
well, I'll tell you what. An intelligent point to bring up is that the original Psychonauts cost, I think it was like $13.5 million to make, and Tim's only asking for 3.3, and I'm nearly positive that's to gauge interest. He's got to have a publisher
Well, they said they
who's
have
ready to.
exterior funding, which is covering. I gotta imagine all the ports. Well, here's the thing too. I wanted to say, considering that, because this topic has been brought up since Notch first wanted, mentioned maybe funding Psychonauts 2, and he was like, well, it might cost 20 million. We are at a point now, case in point, where something that used to cost 10 million, they got to find a way to make for like a million. And the way that
Mhm.
happens is through automation and middleware. I'll explain. Game magazines, like I'm doing everything when it comes to my own publications. I can draw it, I can color it, I got the InDesign, I can self-publish. I can do all the printing I can go right to the printer myself. That used to back in 2000, you could not do that with one person.
Mhm.
You had to have a minimum of 4 or 5 people to make that happen. At least three. Someone to write it, someone to do desktop publishing, someone to be the manager of freelance to gather everything up. So like then you go, well, that's 3 people that had to be there. So how much did that cost to make on salary? That's could maybe 20,000 a piece. That's 60,000 just to get that done. I can do it myself. So maybe you only need 20,000 now. So Psychonauts was a game that took almost 5 years to make. It was started before the Xbox came out. They built the engine from scratch. Tim Schafer had to spend his own money. He borrowed like 250 grand on top of that to cover payroll ones. So that 13 million is probably counting the first 3 years it took for them to build the tools. They're going to be using the Brutal Legend engine, which if you've seen any of the Amnesia Fortnights they've done, where they do this thing every other year where they make game prototypes, they've been
Mhm.
reusing the Brutal Legend engine since for everything. Stacked, Iron Brigade, Trench, whatever you want to calling it, dude, Costume Quest, all uses the Brutal Legend engine. So the engine's built. And I imagine at that point, you're just like trying to find, like it's a matter of trying to find ways to have these teams come in there, build these small projects quickly, and then get a lot of bang for your buck. And that to me is the thing that's fucking exciting. That is what I loved garage gaming. If you grew up in the 90s, you knew garage gaming was it, man. All the big franchises we have now came out of that. And then EA and Activision bought them all up and dissolved those studios. Psygnosis, Bullfrog, Neversoft, all these little houses that got. I love that 3 people can go in there and pull out some magic and make fucking deep, like case in point for a movie, the fucking the District 9. That you can do that on a shoestring budget and you can be creative and you can get what should have cost in a studio system 80 to 100 million dollars to produce. They can do it for like 16. You know, so like that's what they're doing. And whether they do it well or poorly, is part of what you're signing up for. So if you tell me for $40, I get Psychonauts 1, I get Psychonauts 2, I get this documentary, and I get to watch these guys create a new industry. Like they're inventing something right now. And I just find that I as a creator, that's far more interesting to me than I really hope this giant publisher someday will see it in their hearts to give these people money to go make a creative game. Because it won't happen. It won't. Minecraft was going to be made by what developer, James? Nobody. You know? I mean, I wish they did. I wish we had these creative funds, that could do that. But Phil Fish would probably win them all. Like if they did. He'd probably win them 3 times, and then we'd all be fucked. So I love Fez, by the way. I'm just making a joke if you guys know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. That's my rant, and it's not against you. I got a lot of love for you. I put you in the fucking book. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, man. I totally get it. I don't feel hated on at all. It's just, we're we have a difference of opinion at the moment, and I respect your opinion. I see exactly where you're coming from.
and I have love
I
for
don't agree
Tenaple. You
with
see that
anything you
Earthworm
say,
Jim? See that Earthworm Jim
huh?
up there, bro? That's a gym. Oh, you can't see it. When you see the video, it's on my wall. I forget. None of you guys can see the video. So
Yeah, not
It's called going to YouTube and putting you on mute and watching you delayed.
yeah. And then I get to
See,
watching me make
okay,
faces at you while you talk.
you're doing
Little
some
signs.
really profound things with your hand and shaking your fist.
Oh, well,
Oh
that's I know
boy.
this is I'm a very phony bone when I talk. Like, you know what? By the way, if you know what I'm talking about, Bone, I was rereading Bone the other day, and I didn't realize how many Hitler poses Phony Bone makes throughout that series.
Nice.
No, I'll have to go back and check.
He's making a lot of Hitler poses. I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of Hitler poses. Like, because I just got done watching like Downfall again the other day. You know, every time Trump talks, I gotta go watch fucking a Hitler documentary. So.
So I don't know. I had a couple quick questions for James. Just
Sure.
he's our scapegoat for the hater of
Yep.
crowdfunding. So since you got to play Broken Age, since it was free on PlayStation Plus, I haven't played it yet. So did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Would you like to see more games like that?
Yes, I would.
Okay, and I'm not gonna take that to where you think I'm gonna be. And also, I just want to know, like, so what was it about Armorcrog that made you want to back that?
Uh, that's a really good question. Probably nostalgia. I really enjoyed the Neverhood. I really enjoyed Skull Monkeys. I even liked Boombots. So it just was, I guess it was like, hey, I don't know. I just
Who else
maybe
is
I
it was
making
mean, so,
claymation, right?
promise
yeah.
of yesteryear. It
Well,
was
what was what's your favorite game by them?
by
That creative
oh
team, basically.
Yeah.
probably Skull. I think I like platformers, so Skull Monkeys I'll say is my
Yeah.
favorite.
So if they're like, hey, Skull Monkeys 2, like, it's only happening if we crowdfund this, like, you wouldn't be tempted to help them or chip in,
Tempt
like,
no,
or
no, I would be
10 or 20
tempted. I would
bucks?
be tempted. I'm human, but I wouldn't. I don't think I would actually end up giving them money,
Yeah.
especially after Army Krog came out. I don't want to hate on it too much.
I
It's
would
just,
expect a demo from them at least, given their track record.
yeah,
You know,
I don't necessarily think that they've, uh, you know, I'll tell you what. Whenever Yacht Club goes to Kickstarter again or some sort of crowdfunding, and they're saying, "Hey, we're going to make a Shovel Knight 2, or we're going to make whatever they have an idea for another 8-bit game," that I would not only seriously consider backing, but probably definitely back. But I'm just I can't.
I can't support the
Based on
Broken Age
no
because I
no
didn't actually
based on
like
where
it.
I
I just lied.
no
You don't
based
have to
on where
like
I
the game. Like,
based on where I am right now, people have to really work to get my money before there's a product on the shelf. As much as
watch the
I
Double
love,
Fine Adventure. You know what I would ask, James? Because this is free, right? And I've asked you to watch things before and you never do. I don't know why, but I'm begging you.
He's a
that's not
busy
true.
man.
I
He's a
watch Lost in
busy
La Mancha. I love it, and I recommend it to people to this day.
All right, I'm begging you to watch the Double Fine Adventure.
And I mean, I sit somewhere in between both of you. Like, I've definitely backed a fair amount of games. I'm looking at what my list right now: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've backed 10 games now. 3 have come out. The one, Project Phoenix got pushed to 2018. Everything else right now, except for Mighty Number 9. Well, shit. Well, I guess 2 games are expected to be out, but the other ones are, they have realistic dates. But most of the games I've backed have been from well-known people who know how to make games. So
Mm-hmm.
I've had more faith in them. I backed Shenmue 3. I backed Bloodstain. The other one, and then I took a risk on a game called Star Mazer, but that looks like to be on point. They had a lot to show ahead of time. Mighty Number Nine's coming, early next year, so it was pushed off a year, but they did a lot. They picked up a publisher. They've added more content to the game, and with the multiplayer and stuff, and
Look,
so
we can all agree games are the hardest thing to make.
yeah, they
So
definitely
Sure.
are.
putting $30 down, you got to wonder, like, is you don't even know. Well, this, I mean, of all the games we know that are out, how many of them never came out? You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah,
they just could.
I just read something recently. It was a study that, and this is overall in crowdfunding, that it's something like 9% of all projects fail. And to this like research firm, like that's an acceptable number. If you think 9 out of 100, that's a 91% success rate. And that's the risk you run. I mean, I'm sure it's higher in video games. I think the reason I've been backing games, and there's a lot. You see a lot of these like RPG Maker clone style games that come out, and I'm just like, sure, it looks kind of cool, but yeah, I'm not touching that until it's out because I don't know who these people are, and unless they have like a fully fledged demo ahead of time, I'm scared. But what you do see and why I continue to support crowdfunding is just there's more creativity in it. It's like some people are going indie and some people aren't. Shit, was it you, James, that posted something on like Facebook not that long ago where it was like a game that you call, yeah, it was you. It was like a game that looked like kind of like Castlevania. It was like a hardcore Castlevania game.
Yeah, Adult Swim.
Yeah,
Adult
so
Swim's making that game.
and if you followed that game, I was reading up on that afterwards. Like they were seconds from going to Kickstarter, and then Adult Swim swooped in and like, we'll fund the game. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But there's not a lot of companies out there that are willing to take the risk. So it's like I feel like we as people keep backing these games and more of these games come to fruition, companies may start taking more of a risk in the future because they don't they want money and it's like they're gonna see some of these games be successful like Pillars of Eternity just got like Game of the Year on the App Store for Apple products. So
Fantastic documentary too, by the way. They did
and
a
that's actually what I'm playing right now, and I'm just like, this game is amazing. I didn't play any of those old Baldur's Gate games, so like this is new to me, and the game's kicking my ass. But I'm in love with like how much lore and character, and the art's beautiful, and it's a cool game.
the
And
game ran late.
yeah,
Like I hate when late. I'm always late. I've never hit a fucking
Yeah,
deadline, dude. Like
it's not
the
a
crazy thing is really
it's
quick
not
is
bad enough
they
reason
have
to
a
hate on
publisher
it.
too. Like they have Paradox that was helping them publish that game, and it still ran late.
Well, running late's never been something that I've really been upset by. Everything that I said about Tim Schafer and Double Fine, none of it had to do with him being late.
I just hate when they say mismanaged funds because if the game came out,
I
the
didn't say
funds aren't.
funds.
You said mismanaged funds.
I
Funds.
didn't say funds. I said mismanaged. It was
Man.
mismanaged.
He said mismanaged fund. No,
Oh,
no D. No.
okay. You
uh,
got me on the plural. Well played, Wesley. Well played. Anyways, man, so I just want to say, folks, we live in an age where you're going to get a billion fucking FPS clones. If you want to play more Destiny, hey, you got 9 to 8 more years of it coming. So, I want to live in a world where I can go to a psychic summer camp. Okay? Like I need this. Okay? So, uh and I really want to be able to see how games are made, warts and all, And I don't know, like moving forward, how many warts Tim will allow on camera, because like the Double Fine adventure is pretty open, bro. And even then, he's like, well, that openness causes a lot of trouble, so I'm hoping they don't pull back from showing. That being said, uh, I have to put some of my money, some of my gaming money in. I have to gamble a little bit here and put it in with people that are going to give me a unique experience. Shovel Knight, you know what I mean? I'm totally unique. I'm not going to get that anywhere else. I freaking love Divinity. If you haven't played Divinity yet, you got to play it. It takes that Diablo slash Baldur's Gate thing, and you can play the game any way you want. And just some of the cleverest writing, humor is one of the things that I loved about gaming with Maniac Mansion, Ron Gilbert. Speaking of which, Ron Gilbert, Thimbleweed Park, you know. And if you follow his podcast, his development blog on that's amazing. Like you can download files. They're like, here's PSD with everything layered. You can see how this is all set up, you know. So like I'm just where if I can't directly support these guys, if I can't support them directly, I just feel like they're not going to get supported. That being said, if someone, you spend $100 on it, they don't come through. Look, I want y'all to know, I had a situation a year ago or a year and a half ago where I had two Kickstarters, two print Kickstarters completed, and the person in charge of shipping those things decided not to do their job, you know. And we've made up. Not gonna make mad at him. We've made our peace. But I was in that place, guys, where it's like I'm fucked, Like I don't have like I had to take every dime I had to get that done, you know? And it had to be fast because these people needed their shit. And I'm like, I can't burn this of all the bridges that I've somehow burned in my career. I can't burn crowdfunding because this is what I've waited my whole life for. A place where you can direct mail creative shit. Who else, James? Who else is gonna give me anything to do Game Cave? Nowhere. You know, I've shown it to publishers. They go, well, this is crazy. I don't, can you just draw our Skylanders book, please? I'm like, no, I don't want to draw fucking, I don't want to do it, man. I don't want to do covers, are fun. I don't want to draw this. So it's like, it was when I grew up, it was about self-publishing. Dave Sims, Cerebus. And we had the self-publishing, explosion in the early 90s with Image Comics. And then everything came crashing down in 98 for a lot of different reasons. Speculator market, Heroes World, Marvel, Clone Saga, too many books, all this stuff. And now, like because the crowdfunding's so diverse, it covers art, it covers games, it covers cooking, it covers whatever, it covers books, it covers movies. It that explode it can't if something goes wrong, it can't kill the whole industry. So if one of those things went wrong for you, James, or three of those things went wrong, all I would ask is don't let it cloud your mind to the things that went right. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, Rob. If when Psychonauts 2 is finished and it comes out, he decides to announce Full Throttle 2 or Brutal Legend 2, I would seriously consider backing those.
Well, I'll see that in 5 years. We'll get back. This game's not going to come out on time.
We'll talk again in 5 years.
It's not going to come out on time. We know this, The question is, will Game Cave be out by then?
I don't care if it comes out on time.
My favorite was people were like, Tim's making fun of us. He stole our money. And they had that picture of him with the bowl full of money, And I was like, and they had a bottle of Cholula. I'm like, well, at least he's got the Cholula.
I'll tell you what, if you think you're going to get involved with Tim Schafer and he's not going to make fun of you, you're a fucking idiot.
That's what he does. He does humor. He's a satirist.
That's what he does.
But we live in a world where we live in a country now, man, where we don't get satire. We need direct Michael Bay fart humor. We don't get it. Like sad but true. So, anyways, is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
Well, I mean, you said Michael Bay, and that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer looked pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, I did a reaction. I did a reaction video, folks. If you want to check out the team.
I'll have to check that out. I don't want to talk about it, but compared to the X-Men trailer, I'm more interested in the Ninja Turtle movie. I mean, Pizza Shredder, Rocksteady, Bebop,
Ninja Turtle trailer.
The CG is equally horrible amongst both films right now. Yes. I can't figure out why the CG is so bad. And Doomsday sucks, but I love that
in Apocalypse.
Milky. Oh, dude, the Apocalypse CG Doomsday, was like I was liking it to the Hulk in the Ang Lee movie.
Dude, I was legit confused when Doomsday showed up. I swear to God, I looked at it and I was like, "What is that? Just a monster? No. I mean, it looks like a fucking rock troll from Lord of the Rings. Is it just a monster?" And then someone said Doomsday. I was like, my mind was blown because I was so confused when I first saw that stupid thing.
Yeah, so we'll see, man. That's a whole nother discussion. James, is there anything you wanted to mention or plug or defend?
No, I'm out of the video game. I have my I have my desk job. I fly a desk during the day. It pays my bills. I've just kind of been doing that. Nothing to plug, nothing to talk about. Totally boring, I know.
Well, where can people find you on the internet if they would like to come over and say hello and give you a hug?
They can. I guess they can look me up on Facebook. I mean, I deleted my Twitter because I literally never used it.
Gotcha. Well, just Google Scoot Bacon. You'll find him.
Scoot Bacon. Yes, not James. It's Scoot. Scoot. SCOOT.
Scoot Bacon. Wesley, where can we find you on the internet?
Do I get to plug something?
Yeah, plug whatever you want. Go ahead.
I just wanted to plug the awesome Double Fine sale that's on Steam right now. For $20, you can get Psychonauts, Stacking, Iron Brigade, Brutal Legend, Broken Age, Grim Fandango Remastered, Massive Chalice, Hack and Slash, Costume Quest 1 and 2, and Space Base DF-9 for $20.
Wow,
that's pretty rad.
It's 80% off. I figured it was timely. I saw the sale today. People can find me on Twitter, which is at Wesley Rusher. That's RUSCHAR. And yeah, don't confuse me with a Star Trek character.
All right, and as for myself, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Right below, we got a little button down there. Say hi on Twitter at Sketchcraft. That's Sketch, C-R-E-F-T, like Minecraft, Sketchcraft. Or at the Facebook, which sketchcraft.com will take you right there. Don't forget, folks, Sketchcraft is recorded in front of a live internet audience and fully supported by viewers like you. Please leave your comments and feedback below, and I'll see you on the next Sketchcraft Live. Later, folks.